He sent me packing down Green River Valley. I knew that if you couldn't, then no one would have.
Hey, this is Adam with Mile High Stash, the podcast that asks what 5 albums he would take to a remote Colorado cabin in the event of a zombie apocalypse. Today we have a little new spin on things for you because we have not a musician or entertainer or a producer, but a political candidate, Waylon Lewis, who you probably know from the great Elephant Journal, which used to be on newsstands all over, but has been a huge online success for a long time now. And Waylon is really an icon of Boulder. And it was great to sit down with him in my office and ask him his platform, his life story, and his 5 albums as well. So I hope you enjoy that. We also have a new sponsor. It's the Boulder Roots Music Project, which is a funky little independent nonprofit, that has concerts and other music-related events. And actually, I am playing drums with Rolling Harvest at the Roots Music Project on Friday, December 8th, and it's always fun to play a gig there. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoy my conversation with Waylon Lewis. And also, if you can, please remember to review Mile High Stash on Apple Podcasts or really anywhere you listen to stuff. I will talk with you on the flip side of my conversation with Waylon Lewis, who is running for Boulder City Council. The election is November 7th, but mail-in voting is going to start way before that.
The Boulder Roots Music Project believes in the power of music to make the world a better place, and all music starts locally. The Roots Music Project empowers artists and audiences to connect and create a thriving and inspiring local music scene. Based in Boulder, Colorado, the Roots Music Project's mission is to foster a DIY music scene with events such as concerts by local and national musicians, open mics, live interviews, and workshops. Head to rootsmusicproject.org for their event calendar and more information about this great Boulder nonprofit music incubator.
Waylon Lewis, you are originally from here, right?
Originally, yeah.
Yeah.
Born and raised. My mom and dad actually had me the first summer of Naropa University.
Wow.
1974. I was born on the break, the day off between the 2 sessions. Very thoughtfully of me, I think.
So I'm guessing you were baptized by Allen Ginsberg.
Yeah, pretty much.
William Burroughs.
Hopefully not Burroughs.
Yeah.
Hopefully Ginsberg or someone.
Yeah.
Burroughs had a tendency to involve shooting and guns.
Did you go to Horizons?
I didn't. I don't know if it existed back then. I'm pretty old. But I went to Vidya, which was a Buddhist school. A lot of us Buddhist kids went there. And it wasn't just Buddhist. It, had normal kids in it. But I also went to public schools mostly, other than that. Like Whittier.
Yeah, that's where my kid went.
Yeah, I learned how to swim at Spruce Pool right next door.
Yeah.
And then Mapleton for first grade, and then I think Vidya for 2nd through 7th, and then Casey.
You're a Dharma brat? I mean,
yeah.
And your parents were followers of the Rimps?
My parents were well, yeah, I mean, we're Buddhists, so hopefully we're not too followy,
yeah.
We're not culty, but yeah, they studied with Trungpa Rinpoche. They divorced pretty young, when I was 6, and yeah, I was brought up in the whole Buddhist world, which I was alternately bored and grateful for.
Do you still practice?
I do.
Yeah.
Thank God. No pun intended.
Have you ever lived anywhere else?
Yes. So when I was 13, we moved to Vermont. I got a scholarship to St. John's Berry Academy, which was a kind of Dead Poets Society school, a little bit style, old school, New Englandy, but also public again. So it was half private, half public. It was a partnership. So I rode the bus with all the hicks and flannel shirt wearing huge guys who wanted to kick my ass because I was a little sweet Buddhist kid. They're like, we hear you barbecued your teacher, meaning cremated. Like, we're going to kick your ass on the school bus. And then I'd finally get off the school bus and be in this, like, the opposite, like this preppy, fancy world. And then I went to Boston University, lived in Boston for a long time. And still miss it, still miss Vermont. And then moved back here kind of accidentally. I would always come out here every summer with like $300 in my account and like do a Buddhist retreat all summer up at Shambhala Mountain Center. Yeah. Now Drala Mountain Center. Yeah. And, work study. So it was free. So you're working and you get food and rent. Yeah. And like a little stipend, like $30 a month or something. And then I'd study Buddhism, study the hell out of it. I loved it. And I needed it. And then I'd go back to Boston.
What are your feelings on the state of... there's a split now because there are people who want it to be Shambhala and there are people who want it to be Drala.
Which? The Drala Mountain Center?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know about that split. I know about the Shambhala split with the Sakyong.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Okay. Some people are still with him and some people are like, he's Voldemort.
Yeah, no, as usual, I'm like in an uncomfortable position where I am not in the middle per se, but I don't hate him. Hurt people. But I was very early and very clear with my publication, Elephant Journal. I did videos and people on both sides got mad at me. Yeah. Which sometimes means you're in a good place.
Yeah, that's a good sign.
Yeah, I basically said, look, we should split with the Sakyong. We can't have sexual assault at the top, or ideally anywhere, but certainly not at the top with your teacher. But at the same time, like, our lineage, our history is full of messed up people who practice meditation and Dharma and wake up and are kind and to themselves and others. Yeah. Like Milarepa killed 10 people or something. Hopefully we're not encouraging that, but Anyway, I said we should split with them, and we have, which I'm really happy about. But I also don't hate him. I mean, I knew he was my teacher, and I knew him and loved him, and we always knew he was fallible. Yeah. Buddhism isn't about worshiping a god. Yeah, we're all fucked up. Excuse me. I don't know if we can swear.
I'll swear as much as you want.
All right. We're all fucked up. Yeah. And, Maitri, loving kindness, is the practice of making friends with our own neurosis. And then through that, you have empathy. Oh, I'm insecure. I'm arrogant. I'm neurotic, whatever. For other people are insecure, arrogant, neurotic, or whatever. Yeah. And then it's compassion. That's Mahayana. Yeah. Service. That's why I'm getting into some service, hopefully.
So Trungpa Rinpoche passed away when you were like 10 or
12, yeah. Do you remember the phone call, yeah.
Remember meeting him?
Oh, yeah, many times.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. I took Bodhisattva vows with him, which is like the second rank of, I know you know probably, but...
Well, it's a Beastie Boys song. That's how I knew it growing up.
There we go.
Yeah, yeah.
Adam Yauch. Yeah. Love the Beastie Boys, love free Tibet concerts, miss those. Yeah. And love the Bodhisattva vows, love Trungpa Rinpoche. He was also imperfect. Wildly imperfect.
Crazy wisdom.
Yeah, infamously imperfect. Difference with him is, I think, for the most part, he was very transparent and open about it.
Well, there's a documentary about him called Crazy Wisdom that I really like, and it kind of talks about how, whether you buy into it or not, that he was trying to be a bad example. He was trying to say, don't be like this.
Well, he explicitly said that, but I think there was some corruption in the sense of, he wrote a beautiful poem. He was very self-aware and transparent again. He wrote a beautiful poem saying, have I been corrupted by drinking too much Coca-Cola? There's a lot more to it. But the idea of like, when you're a rock star, especially like a spiritual rock star.
Yeah. With spiritual wives.
Yeah. Then you can kind of, it's so easy to use power for pleasure instead of for compassion. And I think he did more than almost anyone I know in the entire world for compassion. So I can't knock him, but in that sense. But, Buddhism teaches critical intelligence. They say, that's how I felt about the Sakyong. Like when I was in the Kosung, which is sort of a service corp, again, I know but, I was like basically like a protector of the Sakyong at various points. Sakyong being Trungpa Rinpoche's son. Yeah. Now deposed. But they taught us, to their credit, like, you don't do what the teacher says. You do what is best for the situation and what is ethical. And that's how we were raised as Buddhists. We're not here to worship and be in some little cult. We're here to actually like wake up out of our own selfishness and be of benefit to our planet, which gosh knows it needs it.
And the community is still here, and that's the important thing. If you
Love the
depose
community.
this person, that doesn't taint the community. It's still here.
I'm so proud. I adore our community. I was just attacked on Reddit like a few days ago for being like a rape apologist. I haven't read it.
Wow.
But I think they're just referring to me like defending the Sakyong, which I honestly haven't.
Yeah.
But I have failed to hate him.
Yeah.
And I will continue to fail to hate him.
Hate nothing at all except hatred.
Beautiful. Don't even hate hatred. Hug hatred.
Yeah.
Like in Buddhism, it says victory over, those pins, the costume pins, they say victory over war.
Yeah.
The real meaning is victory over aggression.
Yeah.
So
my kid has
exactly what you just said.
Yeah. Well, Bob Dylan said it, so don't give me credit for that.
Exactly what you and Bob said.
Yeah. My kid has now done sun camp.
Cool.
3 years in a row, and
Amazing.
It is her favorite thing. She dreams about it throughout the year. And I posted something on Facebook that was a video of the parade at the end, and I said, my kid is now a soldier in the army against war.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fantasized or dreamed about sun camp every year, all year. We all did.
Yeah.
I was roommates with Saul Halpern, who was hosting my tent mates with Saul, who's hosting my launch party for council, which we'll get into maybe. Yeah. But sun camp was that rare oasis where you could actually be treated with respect as a kid.
Yeah.
Trungpa Rinpoche always said, don't call kids kids. He said, call them children. Treat them formally and with respect. Whether you can call them kids or whatever, but the point was treat them with respect. And it wasn't as cliquey. There were cool kids and all that at sun camp, but everyone kind of was, for 1 week or whatever, was relatively nice to each other.
Yeah.
And as you may remember, I'm getting too old to remember, but being a kid was tough. It was like walking around with no skin on, no armor.
Yeah. So tell me about how you went from, I believe Elephant is still going on, but it's online. Everybody knows about Elephant Magazine.
Yeah.
It's
been online for 16 years or something.
Yeah. Yeah, but it used to be on newsstands. Which
for
really
the first 6 years, it got not big, but national.
Yeah.
Did pretty well.
It's fucking great.
Still would have done well if I'd kept it going, but it was burning me out. And going online at that time, Facebook was new, YouTube was new.
Yeah.
Twitter was new. It's funny looking back.
Yeah. What did you learn from running Elephant that you are taking into your running for office now?
That's an amazing question. No one's really asked me that. I learned that I was very. This sounds sort of self congratulatory, but I learned that I was an ethical boss. That I wanted to pay people well and have good retention because you save money and you have better people sticking around for longer and less drama. Yeah. I also learned that I frankly was highly mediocre at best as a manager. So I went to Naropa Authentic Leadership Program and I really applied myself for a long time. And I think, I've been a boss now for 22 years. We had 37 staff last 8 years. And I learned that I was not a great manager. I was great facing one way, being an entrepreneur, facing outward and building something and inspiring people and connecting. And we built 13 million social fans and millions of readers a month. We peaked at 30 million readers a month.
Wow.
But I was highly mediocre, again, at facing inward and running. I didn't really care. I think that was part of the problem about managing 30 staff. I wanted other people to do it. I wasn't, the Buddhist exhortation, similar to many different traditions, is to be of benefit. And I was okay, I obviously want to be decent to people and treat them right, the 30 people working for me or whatever. But my real goal is to kind of raise awareness on climate crisis and equity and, women's rights and, meditation and all these issues that Elephant always covered. And I think we did that in a lot of moments of crises and, when someone famous died. We had a lot of moments where we really were able to kind of touch in with the national or international consciousness and be a mindful reference point.
Yeah.
But, so, I think I got better as a manager to the point where I had an amazing staff, great retention, But, we were always small and strapped for money, and it's hard, Now it's sort of almost autopilot. My staff is amazing. It's the first time I can run for office, just time-wise.
Yeah.
I mean, barely. I'm run ragged right now, but it's kind of mostly fun. So it's okay. But what else did I learn? I think I learned just that responsibility. I've talked about that at a couple of the city council forums where, you're responsible for 35 people or whatever on your staff. You're responsible for what you put out there. And that sense of being a small or large business, whatever we were, small staff-wise, but huge reach, gave me a sense of like, oh, I can do this. I can talk with people who are anti-vaxxers and Trumpers and, conspiracy theorists and all this stuff, and I can like relate to them honestly. I won't say I'm always pleasant with them, but I can be straightforward. I'm not patronizing. I'm not a jerk. Sometimes I disagree with them vehemently.
Yeah.
And if they're disrespectful, I may return that in kind. I think respect is earned. But it gave me a sense of confidence, in terms of relating to the madness in politics. And I've already been like attacked. I'm running for city council. It's like the smallest office in the world. I always say dog catcher is here and city council's down here in terms of power. But, I've already been like attacked mostly anonymously.
People are really passionate about where they live.
Oh my God, exactly.
Yeah.
So you have no respect because it's just a lowly office. You're not a governor. You're not a congressperson. You're not a president.
Yeah.
You're a city councilor. I always say no one's ever impressed if you're like, I'm on city council, But you have a ton of power over their yard or over their daily enjoyment of their town that they're deeply invested in.
Noise and dogs,
Safety
all kind of small stuff.
Marshall fires and everything.
Yeah.
King Super shooting. Every macro and micro issue is, and you're right there. You're also not far away from them in Washington D.C. or even Denver. Like you're at King Super's shopping.
Yeah.
You're at the farmer's market. I'm biking around. I'm even more visible than most people, I think.
So I have lived in Boulder off and on for 15 years now, and there's never been a time that I don't see you biking around, and like you are iconic. You're as iconic as like the Pearl Street Mall. It's like Waylon Lewis. He's a part of Boulder, So that's pretty good for running for office.
Yeah. Well, it better be, because the obstacle I have is I'm really the only candidate. There may be a few candidates who don't have a realistic chance to win. I'm the only like front runner who is independent. There's like basically two big slates and a bunch of other groups. And I may get support from a lot of groups. I have tons of endorsements from, really amazing people in this world of Boulder and politics and stuff.
But you aren't, the candidate of Plan Boulder or the candidate of...
That's why, like, I don't know if we can say, but your friend over here said, he said, I disagree with you on some stuff, but I like where you're coming from. Something like that.
Yeah.
So my general approach, which is sincere, you can be insincere about it and just use it as a shield. But my general approach when people are like, what do you think about homelessness? What do you think about climate crisis? Is like, okay, we're in a town with like NOAA, NOAA, like NCAR. We're in a town with like experts on every subject. Like, who gives a crap what I think? I'm here as a counselor to represent the best possible advice of these experts and make that happen.
In running for office, are you learning tangibly the difference between an opinion and a position?
I don't know. I don't know about that. My opinions, I have opinions, and I sometimes am defensive like anyone, but I think they're not very solid. I think I'm happy to change my mind. And positions, I feel sort of the same. Like I do have values, as I said when I was walking out with your friend, but my values I don't think are up for debate, because I think they're basically about compassion, equity, taking climate crisis seriously, which almost no one is. I mean, everyone says the same stuff. Oh, we're concerned about public safety, climate, and affordability. Yeah. But there's huge differences if you dig beneath the surface.
Yeah.
Huge. I went for a walk with one of the 2 mayor candidates, and who we were just talking about, and he or she said, "Oh, it'd be great if you were on council to have someone passionate about the climate stuff." That's, I think, a quote. Like, meaning out of 9 counselors, there's no one who's like really fired up about it. No pun intended. I'm super fired up about it.
What do we do in Boulder in terms of fighting climate change and being environmentalists? I don't really have the answer to that question.
2 things. I think one, think locally, inspire globally. The old bumper sticker.
Yeah, but I'm saying, what are we doing? What's actually happening here? And
but to be specific, what can we do locally?
What can we do?
What can we do locally? And there's a lot, and it's actually super urgent. The fact that it's not done should keep everyone up at night.
Yeah.
Like, we are sitting ducks. Boulder, if nothing changes, Boulder will burn in the next 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
Like a huge swath of historic Boulder, or Boulder out, East Boulder. Marshall Fire has already burned 1,000 homes. This is not theoretical.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a matter of time. In my bedroom, I can see the Flagstaff parking thing. I mean, it's really far away. But one year, someone flicked a cigarette or whatever. We don't know what it was, but it was right off the Flagstaff lookout where the cars park.
Yeah.
And people look out at the stars. And a fire started there and went, I could see it from my bedroom. And then you saw, and the fire, all these flashlights, and they're fighting it. And it was small still, and they got it back.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of time. So locally, what can we do? Fire mitigation. I met with the fire folks last night. We met from 6 to 10 last night with the city staff. Really fun. 10 p.m. meeting. But they said the same thing. And that's where I'm like, okay, experts. Listen to experts.
Yeah.
We have 8-foot tall dry wooden fences connecting every house.
Yep.
Just about in Boulder. So we don't allow wooden shingles anymore. We shouldn't allow wooden fences. I have wooden fences. I'm not telling everyone, nanny state, like, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I'm just saying you're going to burn down and you're going to burn your neighbor's house or they'll burn yours. So we need fire mitigation crews going house to house saying, okay, you're going to have to replace your fence at some point anyway. We'll pay for half of it if you replace it with stucco or a cheap chain link metal fence. Doesn't have to be expensive, or brick or stone or the thin metal, those sort of modern fences that are just thin panels of tin or whatever they are. We need to do that. We need to outlaw wooden siding, sadly. I'm sorry. Again, my house is wooden siding. It's old Victorian. But, we can't allow new wooden siding.
Yeah,
and whenever it gets replaced, it needs to be like the hardy board stuff. Fireproof.
How do you get more people to commute by bike?
Yeah, exactly. So that's another local action. So we're actually finally doing it. I don't know what's happened, but we're starting to put in... So I always talk about my neighbors, Morja and Todd, and their 3 kids. I won't say the kids' names, just for their privacy.
Yeah.
But, it's like watching the, little ducklings, There's, 3 little kids in descending order of size, and the 2 parents. And when they bike around, it's heaven seeing them. They moved here from Boston, actually, I don't know, 5-10 years ago. And they're the best neighbors ever. How often are they on their bike? Once every couple months. Why? So they have a huge SUV. They have a huge truck. They use that even for a 2-block drive to a school. I'm not trying to shame them. I'm saying if we had protected bike lanes.
Oh, I know. That's a big
everywhere,
thing.
Not just, occasionally in random disconnected places. You have to give old people, seniors, I guess I should call them as a politician, old people, young people, students, families, you have to give them a sense of safety because not everyone's going to be like me or you, biking around. People try to run me over every single day and often don't even notice they almost ran me over because they're on their phone.
Yeah.
So protected bike lanes. And the cool thing about that is it's car friendly too. Every single person you get out of a car, less traffic, more parking, less road maintenance, which is super expensive because the bikes don't destroy the roads.
What about some sort of tax incentive for buying a bike? I think they're doing that in Denver.
We actually did that here for e-bikes. We did a really cool system that was actually better than what Denver did for the little I know. because we did it more around equity. So like, I have a good income from Elephant. I'm not eligible for the e-bike subsidy. It should only be for people where it's actually key in helping them. An e-bike, just to be clear, is still expensive for me. My e-bike is like, it's a lot more expensive than my bikes. So anyway, we did a system here, but it should be much more widespread. We just did our first one like a year ago. So
Yeah. Okay, so
I love that. Like all that local stuff, all of it. The green building, the solar, the electrification of every building, you know, as opposed to gas, fracking, you know, all that stuff, which pollutes us anyway.
Yeah. So I am going to ask you about your campaign and your goals and your plans and all that stuff after you tell me your 5 albums that you would take to a remote Colorado cabin in the event of a zombie apocalypse.
Okay.
You can probably picture where this cabin would be.
Unless there's info about what kind of music zombies hate and will stay away from, in which case I would take that.
Yeah.
The albums, and I'm sure people struggle to answer this straightforwardly.
Yeah.
Because would I take the Beatles? Would I take Beethoven? Would I take, you know, I don't know, Louis Armstrong? Like, would I take some of that just timeless stuff? I probably would, honestly.
Yeah.
But then I'd run out of my 5 picks. So when I was thinking about it on the way here, I was like, I'll just stick to ones that were like formative in my life. Because that's more interesting than me saying like Beethoven, Mozart, you know.
You can
Beatles.
choose whatever the hell you want, though.
I know.
Yeah.
And I probably honestly would pick some of that stuff. Because when I was 12 or whatever, hearing my mom's Supremes, Mozart, you know, that stuff, it's just formative in your consciousness of what music is.
Yeah.
And the Supremes, I mean, now that I mentioned that, like, how could I leave them behind? That would be amazing. And it brings me right back to playing, like, you know, being 6 years old and playing Matchbox cars in the rows on my rug in the living room of my house on Mapleton and 21st. But for me, I would pick, so I was like all freshmen in college. I was excited and cool and nerdy and not cool at all and nervous and, you know, I was all over the place. And Pearl Jam 10 came out.
So it came out 32 years ago last Saturday.
Interesting. Look at you.
Yeah.
How did you know that?
It was all over social media.
Oh, okay.
10.
I was like, wow, you're.
You remember the long box? Remember they put CD, which was really bad environmentally, but it was just a cardboard box.
And all the hands.
This long, and the CD was at the top. It was just to make art.
Yeah.
You know,
to make the album kind of art come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember all the hands on the cover of 10.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, I also, in picking this, you didn't say songs, you said albums.
Yeah.
That's a perfect album. The entire thing is perfect.
Yeah.
Every song. There's no throwaway on there. And I'm pretty sure I feel the same way about Cranberries that came out around then. I don't remember the title, but it was the one that
everybody
came out.
else is doing it, so why can't we?
Probably. It was like 92 or 93.
Yeah.
And then exactly same moment. So I think it sort of froze as like, this was my formative time becoming a young man, was Red Hot Chili Peppers' Blood Sugar Sex Magic. I think, you know, it was a CD, but we wore grooves in it kind of thing. Nirvana too, but I honestly wouldn't pick Nirvana just because you can't pick Nirvana and Pearl Jam.
No.
I don't feel like that's interesting. And heart-wise, I way more identified with Eddie Vedder and Pearl Jam. Nirvana was incredible, but for me, not the same relationship. Like, I remember Rolling Stone, back when Rolling Stone was, like, still an interesting, cool, alternative magazine. Wrote, like, the whole world was... I don't remember, but the sentence stuck in my head. It was something about the whole world was effed up, and then Pearl Jam 10 came out, and... broke all of our hearts or something. Like, it was this moment of just, I think at that time a lot of music was super corporate, you know, like, I mean, it still kind of is. all about the top 40, top 10, all that stuff. And then Pearl Jam came out. It was so rough. I don't even know if you remember that story, but Eddie Vedder was like sleep deprived, recording it separately on a beach.
Right.
I mean, it was just a nutty, weird, anti-corporate.
Yeah. Well, the first video was Alive, and I remember when that came out, I was 11, and it was just a concert film. It was just them, and Eddie Vedder is like climbing the rafters and jumping into the crowd, and it was just this thing where I think in the 80s, you remember hair metal, and the rock stars were these big gods, and when Pearl Jam came out, and also the Smells Like Teen Spirit video, it was like, hey, we're just one of you. There's no difference between the audience and the band, and I think
we're one of you and kind of fuck the man. And I miss fuck the man. Yeah. Like, I really miss that message. I feel like all my friends go shopping at Whole Foods, which is Amazon. All my friends, so many people on social are obsessed with conspiracies, but no one's obsessed. Not enough people are obsessed with climate crisis, which is a conspiracy in the open to destroy the entire planet for short-term profits.
Well, just posting something on Facebook is not an action. I think a lot of people confuse saying something in a social media post with like doing something that would be an example for everybody else.
And I think it's because we're busy and we're sort of broke, and the man keeps us a little busy and broke, Like the inequality in our economy forces a lot of people to keep their head down, and when they have a few moments, they just want to relax and rest,
There's this saying that this species has amused itself to death.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people work to make enough money to pay the bills, and then they entertain themselves the rest of the time.
Yeah, so I think the next album to that, like albums that rise above.
I do have a question for you.
Oh, please.
Did you see Pearl Jam at the Glenn Miller Ballroom when they played here?
No.
Oh.
And do you know Nirvana played at
They played
Penny
at
Lane?
Penny Lane, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Idiot. I don't even know if I wasn't here then anymore. I was in Boston for Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
Unless.
Have you seen them play?
The what?
Have you seen Pearl Jam play?
No.
You have to.
I know.
Oh, man.
I grew up, I don't know what my excuse is, but I grew up really poor. We never did anything like that cost money.
Yeah.
And then when I was in college, I was super broke.
Yeah.
And I would see occasional concerts, but they were usually kind of organized by the school or, you know.
Right.
I really haven't gone to Red Rocks that many times and that kind of thing. I don't have a car. I just bike. So I'm sort of a weirdo in that way. Same with sports, which I love sports. And I like, how many games have I gone to? Like, oh yeah, we were talking about that, I think, for a while. Like a handful ever.
Well, it's going to be more expensive to go to Nuggets games now, so it'll be tough. That's what happened with the Avs is like, you could go for like $10 or $20 and then they want a cup. And
now everyone knows about the Nuggets.
Okay, album number 4.
Well, I think Pearl Jam 10.
Yeah.
Red Hot Chili Pepper, Blood Sugar Magic. Cranberries could be it. I don't know if I would put them in the top 5. It's a sound that really powerfully brings me back. But frankly, a lot of that stuff brings me back. Smashing Pumpkins, The Bell, Dong, you know, all that stuff. But because Sinead O'Connor, I wouldn't say the album, but when I was in high school, and she just passed away, of course, that song broke all of our hearts in a wonderful way.
Yeah.
Nothing Compares to You. But I don't think the album did. So moving ahead, I think Ben Harper, I'm struggling to remember which album it was. I mean, I had a couple, but it was like right around 2099.
One with I'm Gonna Burn One Down?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah,
I mean, I obviously know that song, but so I'd have to look up which album, but it was 1999, 2000. I did see him in concert.
Yeah.
I actually not only saw him in concert, I was wearing at the time, very cool red cowboy hat. And it was in the Boulder Theater. And he was all cowboyed up. He always is. And he saw me in the middle of the show. And he was like, hey, man, I love your hat. And my reaction was like kind of funny in the moment. I stood up and I was just so excited that he had acknowledged me. I turned toward the crowd and went, rah! And everyone went, wah! And it was just a great moment. And then I don't know how it happened. He either asked for it or I offered it. But I threw it onto stage and he wore it on top of his fro.
Wow.
I mean, it didn't fit.
Yeah.
It was on his fro up here for a while.
That's awesome.
I don't remember. I think he threw it back at some point.
That's a great memory.
Yeah, it was cool. And, you know, I genuinely, again, in that genuine heart way, Ben Harper I felt like the way he used his voice was, on the one hand, very Buddhist in the sense of, or a poet, or he just, everything, it was incredibly, like Kerouac, who was one of my favorite writers, is very in touch with every nuance of his voice as it came out, like a trumpeter, like Louis Armstrong. And it was very genuine, very raw, and very fun, very powerful, kind of all over the place, depending on the song.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen it, you should look up on YouTube Ben Harper sitting in with Pearl Jam.
I think I have seen some of that. I have. It's like, that's a dream
it's
for
so
me.
good.
Oh, my God.
It's really bluesy, you know, because Pearl Jam's not really bluesy. And then all of a sudden, you know, he's playing guitar with them, and it's fantastic.
No, I have seen some of that over the years. I wouldn't mind seeing more.
Okay, your fifth and final zombie apocalypse album.
So I think this one is not heartfelt at all for me. I was looking at it up as I sat down. It's Franz Ferdinand.
Oh, yeah.
I forget the name of the album because I frankly never knew it. I just listened to the album 8,000 times. But it dates me again because it was the first time everything was in my like iTunes, and I didn't listen to it by the name of the album. But it was...
Right. This is with Take Me Out?
Yeah. And it was the one with the lady with the megaphone.
Yeah.
The kind of propaganda art. But I don't remember what she was yelling in the megaphone. But that was the cover. Yeah. Anyway, that album, I think as I emerged from being, and I'm still like, you know, vulnerable and kind of sweet and all that from the Buddhist world or Kerouac, you know, I'm going through it again, like just getting attacked running for city council. I'm like, I'm like, oh, it hurts, you know. Yeah. And people are telling me to toughen up, some people, and I'm like, I don't know if that's my way. I just don't know if we Buddhists are supposed to be kind of brokenhearted and open, but also strong back at the same time.
Yeah.
And sane and grounded, not lost in our neurosis, but like vulnerable. And I think that'll be my path. But I think as I got more popular in Boulder, you know, you said iconic at some point. Like when I came back to Boulder in 99, first couple years I was working, I was running around, being young and having a good time with my friends. But at some point, I don't really know, it probably gradually just started. I think around when I started Elephant, probably mostly. But suddenly, it was first time in my life, I felt like for many years really popular. Like not in a necessarily meaningful way, but it's not meaningless either. Like I'd go around town and there was this sense of community and warmth everywhere I went. And I'd sit down for lunch and 10 people would say hi, and whoever I'm having lunch with would be like, oh, you're the mayor of Boulder. And people would say that for like 20 years. And I think Franz Ferdinand captured that moment for me because they're incredibly, if you know them, they're incredibly like ridiculous and kind of full of themselves. And they have this full...
I think they're Scottish, right?
Yeah, this full voice and this kind of humor and this kind of like strut and rhythm and joy and attitude. And so unlike Ben Harper, Red Hot has a lot of that. But unlike Pearl Jam, and Pearl Jam was kick-ass, but so heartfelt always. Yeah. And I think Franz Ferdinand just was like so delightful and full of themselves in a fun way. Yeah. Like at the time Colbert was becoming very famous, Stephen Colbert, and he was playing that right-wing guy, you know, his character.
Colbert Report.
Yeah, and he had that same sense of positive ego where he made fun of himself, but he had fun with building himself up. He was like, I'm a genius, you know, I'm a blah, blah, blah. So there was that sort of, and I think for me coming out of the Buddhist thing, which is like, don't be full of yourself, you know, don't be proud of anything. Like there's a real misconception in growing up Buddhist where you have to almost be embarrassed of yourself because you're trying to stay away from being egotistical all the time.
Yeah.
But Franz Ferdinand and Stephen Colbert and maybe other influences, but they were so full of themselves, but with full awareness and humor and just strutting and fun. They're just badass, and I think that was helpful for me and fun.
So you don't have a mohawk and tattoos and things like this, but I consider you punk rock because punk rock is supposed to be about being unique and super local, like really caring about, you know, making the place that you live better from the inside, and also the fact that you're so open-hearted. Every room that you walk into, you're just authentic.
Thank you.
That's punk rock.
I agree with the punk rock thing. Punk rock is like fuck the man.
Yeah.
And so many of us are just part of the man, the system now.
Yeah.
We don't even think about it. And that includes even tattooing, A lot of people have genuine, really sweet tattoos, and, who am I to judge?
Yeah.
I love tattoos, whatever. It's great. But, like, even that badass expression of, like, fuck the man is now so common that, whatever, the man is getting tattooed, frat boys, whatever,
right.
So, yeah, I think, we need to express ourselves in, I'm looking at all these sports figurines, like that kind of joy and community. Mm-hmm. And do something special,
Yeah.
Because this world, we're breaking this world. We're cooking it. And our children and their children are just totally effed if we don't. We actually have the last opportunity ever to save the planet for those generations. Yeah. And we're not saving it because we're heroes. We're saving it from ourselves.
It has really felt this summer, when you said the word bake, it has really felt outside in Boulder like we're in an oven. And I had only felt that way in New Orleans or New York City in the middle of summer. And it wasn't like that before.
No, it would rain every afternoon. I mean, we actually we got luckier in Colorado than most of the world.
Yeah, yeah.
But this was obviously by far the hottest summer in the history of humankind.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not all about climate change, though. It's about you can fight climate change through the stuff you love. Like the community you find in sports can be leveraged to care about all sentient beings. I love sports too. Is it a waste of time? Yes, but I don't really think it is. In a way, I think it's so fun, and I think fun is good.
I remember being at one of the very few sporting events that one of my partners went to with me, and she was just like, all of these people, there's 40,000 people at this baseball game, and they all care about the outcome of this.
So
imagine
much.
if all of these people cared about yes, we're gonna ride our bikes. Ride our bikes to work.
We're gonna shop local.
Yeah.
So last time I'm in a staff meeting with city staff for Boulder. They're training us in case we win. I don't know why they don't train us later because half of us won't win. But meanwhile, they have snacks out, and of course, plastic. They're all wrapped in plastic, which is direct fossil fuels and lasts forever and messes animals up and messes us up, and it's probably related to cancer and all kinds of things. Yeah. And then they're all from these mega corporations, and I'm on the customer board of Nude Foods. Why couldn't they have stuff in glass that's from local farms and local this and that? Yeah. And it's yummier, it's healthier, it's just weird. We're just out of sync with our own values as a species.
Speaking of punk rock, I was really into the Clash when I was growing up.
Yeah,
and
I can tell.
I would listen to any interviews with Joe Strummer that I could find, and he would always say, "We don't just vote on election day. We vote with every choice that we make every single day." And there's a reason that there's a little organic section at Safeway. It's not because Safeway was like, hey, maybe we could do some organic stuff. It was like, no, people were voting with their dollars somewhere else.
Yep.
And so
and we can do it. I mean, Michael Pollan wrote one book. I interviewed him for Elephant. He wrote one. He's written a bunch of books, but back in 2000 he wrote whatever it was called, 2002 or something. He wrote Omnivore's Dilemma. Mm-hmm. And at that time, farmers markets were dying out. Farms were dying out. I remember when I came back to Boulder in 99, farms were kind of considered old-fashioned. Yeah. Like a dying thing. There were only a few left. This is my memory. And at least in public consciousness, there were only a few left. And then he wrote that book, and farmers markets increased by 10,000% in 1 decade.
Wow.
And, restaurants like The Kitchen and all these restaurants started saying, we get stuff from our local farm, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So we can change.
Yeah.
We fixed the ozone layer back in 1990 or whatever.
Yeah.
We can do it.
Yeah.
But we have to care, like Joe Strummer was saying.
Yeah. Well, we also cared, during World War II, there were all these drives to recycle and things like that because people cared, and then they did
every scrap.
Yeah.
And Victory Gardens.
Yeah.
I was just touring the affordable housing in Boulder by bike with some of the people who do it. And at the end, I said, what I saw was amazing. Like, more gorgeous, more community than, like, normal.
Which one was this?
This is Boulder Housing Partners, and they build affordable housing all over Boulder. And so two things. At the end, I said, could you do more? Or is it just not working financially because Boulder's so expensive? They said, no, what we're doing works financially. We just need more funding to do it faster. We could do it twice as fast.
Yeah.
Because the danger is it's getting harder, not easier, because we're getting more expensive.
Yeah.
Although a couple more fires and that'll be fixed.
Yeah.
And then the other cool thing was on the lawn of this Latino family who I ran across. There are all these bikes, just like in the 80s, bikes laying around. But then in their flower bed, instead of having flowers, and they had some flowers, they had planted corn. There was like huge stalks of corn. And it was beautiful. And, it was for eating. Like, that's what we should be doing instead of lawns everywhere. And
one of my favorite things in Boulder every single day is seeing these Latino guys with like a flannel shirt and jeans, and they're commuting to work by bike. And there are like wealthy, white people here who are driving 2 blocks, to get to work. And EVs are a huge improvement and can help solve the world. But like, again, I don't have an EV. We can save $20,000 in insurance and crap just like getting on a bike. So bike lanes to make it safe and doable for more families, and subsidies so that people can get e-bikes and then more EV buses, which I love, to all the surrounding towns. Like, we can make it work. Yeah.
Obviously, it's not easy, but it's not that hard either.
We can make it work is not your campaign slogan, though. It's "fuck the man." It's your
"fuck the man"
campaign slogan.
We can make the the other stuff work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm very busy. You're very busy.
Yeah.
And I just want to use these last few minutes. What's the date of the election?
So mail-in ballots drop like around October 15th, and
Okay.
about half the city votes by mail-in. And then if you're voting in person, it's November 8th.
Okay.
Yeah.
So imagine that you were on a debate stage,
I've been on a bunch already.
except there are bobbleheads around.
Oh.
And
It's like a funny dream.
and they say, okay, Waylon Lewis, you have 2 minutes to
Yep. Well, I'd sit up to start.
explain your platform and introduce yourself to the listeners of Mile High Stash.
So 4 things. 1, affordability. We can do it almost twice as fast. We're already at 8.5% affordability. Surrounding cities like Denver, Fort Collins, Colorado Springs are at less than 1%. So we've done a lot here, but we need to double what we've done. Otherwise, Boulder is just that kind of homogenous, boring, rich, white people's town where we paint our houses white with black shutters, and it's just boring. And we need employees, practically speaking. The restaurants need employees. We need vibrancy. We need artists. We need musicians. We need Boulder to be interesting, or no one will want to live here. We need children. Our schools are losing children at a rate where they're going to close. So affordability. And not just low-income affordability, but middle-income affordability is vital, unless we want to just become another Vail or whatever.
Yeah.
Number 2, the homeless public safety thing. Basically, everyone yells about it from left or right or whatever, up or down. But again, if you look at experts, there are things that have worked. There are things that don't work. We can look at what works. Basically, creating this ladder for people to get out of homelessness, which involves mental health, addiction care, housing. You house someone, they're not homeless, but you have to have the care to make sure they stay housed and they can get a job and become functional and have a good life. And that's both humane and practical. Or we can yell about it, throw more money at the police, but still restrain the police from not even having the power to do anything other than move the homeless folks 2 blocks at a time, which is what we've done. We've moved them around. We pay like $50,000 or something per intervention. It's insanely expensive. You're hurting the homeless people's lives, making them even more desperate, which isn't good for public safety. And you're not solving anything if you just move them 2 blocks. You're destroying the creek path, all that.
Yeah.
So that's a case where, we can and have to work together. And everyone says work together, kumbaya, but no one does it. There's 2 sides in Boulder. They yell at each other. The only way they get anything done usually, not always, is to beat the other side, to outvote them. I'm the only independent, so that's my 4th thing. I'll get to number 3 real quick. But my 4th is that I can actually work with my public platform to kind of, if I can win, without the support of a slate, and I think I can, is to bring those 2 together and involve the public in a lot of decisions, get the word out so that the public is making noise in a productive, constructive way. And we can actually make some progress faster on every front. And then number 3, which is really my number 1, is climate crisis, which is fire mitigation, flood mitigation, bike lanes, affordability. If people can afford to live here, they're not commuting. If they have to commute, they're on an EV bus or they're biking on a subsidied e-bike or a bike in a protected bike lane, making it work. Electrification of every building in Boulder with subsidies. We already have those subsidies to help people pay for it. Instead of, continuing the fracking, and indoor air pollution is like worse than outdoor air pollution on almost every single day of the year because of gas, basically.
Yeah.
So that's it. And, the 4th, which I touched on, is I'm running in the hardest way possible. I'm like the salmon swimming upstream, hopefully not caught by the bear. And I need public support. People often are saying, hey, man, good luck, And I say, I don't need luck. I need you. I need you to actually do something, yard sign, podcast, donate, obviously vote, spread the word, share something on social media or talk to your friends. Because I'm a front runner. I think I'm one of the top 2 front runners right now, but there's other candidates running, frankly, really strong campaigns. And I really like some of them. And there's really only 3 or 4 slots. So for me to win, I kind of have to, I need support. It's not, because the slates right now are putting yard signs up all over Boulder. They have newsletters with 10,000 subscribers in a 100,000 person town.
Yeah.
I need support. So that's it.
Yeah, man. Good luck, and thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't need luck. I need support, and you just, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man.
Appreciate it.
I'll give you another hour, then I gotta run, I gotta fly away, leave you to fall, leave you to stuff your flower.
That was Boulder City Council candidate and Boulder native Waylon Lewis, who's also the founder and I don't know what you would call it, CEO of Elephant Journal. The election in Boulder is November 8th, but mail-in voting is going to start, it looks like, on October 16th. So get your votes out there, get your voice heard, and I will see you again right here for another episode of Mile High Stash next Monday, as usual.
I know this must seem